And second of all, by sharing my screen. Can you all see that okay? Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, welcome to this workshop. And it's more of a presentation, but I would like to invite you to ask questions at any time. I can't see all of your faces, so just feel free to speak up if you've got questions or if you need clarifications. I'm going to start with territorial acknowledgement. And Carrie, you probably recognize that image. Thank you very much. I've stolen it. So I would just like to acknowledge with great respect the Lekwungen peoples on whose traditional territory the University of Victoria stands, and the Songhees, Wasanich, and the Esquimalt peoples who have long-standing relationships with the land that continue to this day. Okay. So this presentation is focusing on creating a proposal for the Canadian Society for the Study of Education, CSSE, that will be happening in 2022 in May. And I thought I would do this in two parts. And first of all, explain a little bit about what CSSE actually is. Sorry, I can't monitor the admits and the PowerPoint at the same time.
Kathy, if you make me co-host, I think I could let people in if that's helpful.
That would be brilliant. Does that work? Can you do that now, Carrie?
I don't see that I'm co-host yet. You've made me.
Okay, what is it? Participants?
Yeah, if you click on beside my name, it should have the option to make me.
Got it.
Okay. Okay.
Thank you.
So I'll let people in.
I won't worry about it then. I will go back to sharing. So, CSSE, Canadian Society for the Study of Education, is a member of what we call Congress in Canada. And Congress is a large organization made up of all kinds of humanities and social science groups. So I'm focusing in today on education particularly. And because education is also really complex, I'm going to try and walk you through how you understand this organization and how you can fit into this organization. So it's really wonderful to see all of you here and to see your interest. And it is being recorded because we would like to share this with people who aren't actually able to attend right now. So CSSE is the largest organization in Canada of professors, of students, researchers, practitioners across the country. And it has a major voice in what's happening in educational research in Canada. And it also connects to other organizations that you may know about that come from your country of origin, or other organizations that you are part of as an educator. The objectives of CSSE are mainly three. And the first is really important in relation to the conference, that it provides opportunities for a discussion among researchers and educators across the country of different issues that arise, of trends in education, and how we can share what we're doing with others, and to exchange across different organizations and different locations in Canada, and create partnerships for recognizing the diversity, even in Canada, of all of the different kinds of educational research that go on. So I'm just showing you this image because the organization is very complex. So as I said, Congress is the overarching umbrella that houses all social science and humanities organizations. Then CSSE, as you can see in the second ring, is what we're going to be focusing in on today. I'm also going to talk a little bit about two other organizations, adult education and higher education, that might be of interest to you as well. So within CSSE, there are a number of associations, and you can see how those associations might align with your own particular interests. And then within that, there are some special interest groups, which further narrow the kinds of conversations that might appeal to you. So here's CSSE that I was just talking about, and there are 9 associations as identified by these acronyms that I'll talk to you about in just a minute. And within some of these organizations, these associations, there are also special interest groups that further refine the type of conversations that are happening. So just so you get a visual of all of the opportunities that are available for you within CSSE, the Society for the Study of Education. So just briefly, I'm going to go through each one of the associations so that you can see where you might fit in to any or all of these. You're certainly welcome to connect with any of these. And the first one, which is a fairly new association, is for the studies in Indigenous education, which you might be interested in attending sessions, you might be interested in presenting in that kind of a discourse space. The second one focuses on teacher education, and you can see there are several special interest groups as well in under teacher education. So early childhood education, technology, self-study, physical and health education, and action research, which is a methodological approach to studying teacher education. The third one is educational administration, and has been around for quite a long time, is really focused on leadership in education. The fourth one, which is near and dear to my heart, is women in education. I've been part of that organization for a long time, since I was a graduate student, actually. And the special interest group that has developed in the past few years is called QSEC, Queer Studies in Education and Culture. The fifth one, which is of significance to all of you, is the CCGSE, the Committee of Graduate Students in Education. And CSSE is made up of half of our membership are graduate students. So it's a very welcoming space for all graduate students. We really encourage graduate students as our future colleagues to participate in any and all conversations that happen within this organization. The sixth one is curriculum studies. And some of you might be delving into curriculum studies, particularly arts researchers, critical pedagogy, science education research, and language and literacy research. But there's also the broad umbrella of curriculum studies, which looks at all different types of curriculum studies. The next one is educational psychology, which probably none of you in curriculum and instruction are focused on, but there's certainly a space for talking about educational psychology as well. The foundation of education is the second last one, and it encompasses philosophy of education society. And lastly is the Researchers Association, which has appealed to all of you who, because you're all researchers in some capacity. So you can see that it's really complex, which makes it difficult to navigate when you're just beginning this organization. But it also says that there's a place for all of you with all of your interests, and maybe more than one. because lots of times you have more than one interest. So I just briefly want to mention beyond education, there's also a society for the study of adult education. And some of you might align with adult education more with leadership studies. We have a robust unit within our faculty that's outside of curriculum and instruction. But people who are interested in leadership and adult education find a really nice community there. And if you're interested in work in relation to higher education, there's also a lot of activity that goes on in higher education as well. And I'm picking those two out because they're connected to education. But in Congress, there are many other organizations, game studies organization, for example, like that's where gender studies are, it's where history is. So there's lots of other societies that come under the umbrella of Congress. But these two might be of particular interest to you as educators in a variety of capacities. So CSSE has a strong organizational structure. It has an executive, and each association that I just talked about also has an executive, which includes somebody who manages the program each year and manages the proposals that come through that hopefully you are going to see yourself doing, which we'll talk about in just a minute. So I encourage all of you to think about getting engaged in one of the associations or the special interest groups, and even putting your name forward as a graduate student representative on one of the executives. It's a really wonderful way to network, to get to know other scholars from different parts of Canada, and also to create community for yourself that will be useful now and down the road as you're doing your own study. So the second part I want to talk to you about is writing a proposal. And we're doing this workshop today because the proposal deadline is coming up very soon, October the 1st. The nice thing about CSSE is that it's a very welcoming and accessible space. And so is the proposal format. So it's not an extensive proposal. And certainly if you look at the grad students association, you'll see that there's many ways in which you can create a proposal and submit it. But it's really nice to know the organizational structure so you don't get overwhelmed when you go into the site. So the proposal includes basically these four things. So your name, and any other collaborators that you are presenting with, the title of your presentation, a brief abstract, and then the summary of your proposal. So there's an extensive document that you can see there, and this PowerPoint will be accessible to you later so that you can come back and take a look at the site, which is also on the CSSE website. But the summary will then include these particular things. And there are three different formats in most organizations where you can present. So one is a paper. So if you were imagining writing a paper for one of your courses, for example, you can think about using that as a proposal for a presentation as a paper or as a round table. And a round table is usually a more informal space where you are presenting work in progress that is more of a discussion, not a presentational format. Or you could do a poster. And often a poster is a really accessible way to present your ideas, your forming research. And they should include, your proposal will include these things. What is your purpose? What is your theoretical framework or stance? What are the methods that you're thinking about using? If you're using a qualitative approach, are you looking at case study? Are you interviewing people? Are you doing observations? What are the ways in which you're collecting your data? And then that leads into your data sources. And then what are your findings? What have you found out? For those of you who are new to a graduate program, some of these things might be more speculative as you are moving forward because you probably haven't collected a lot of data. But you can also put that into your proposal as well, is that this is what you're planning on doing. And then what's the importance of the study? Like what new knowledge are you contributing to the general conversation in an educational kind of realm? So all of those are fleshed out on that site that I just showed you there, and walk you through in quite a lot of detail to help you frame up your proposal, which is about 3 pages long. Not very long at all. So a couple of notes for you. If you are thinking about putting in a proposal, you need to be a member of CSSE. You can be a graduate student member if you're a graduate student. And there is a category for students. So the complicating factor, because of this organizational structure, is that you need to join Congress, and you need to join CSSE, and you need to join an association, whether it's teacher education or curriculum studies or educational psychology, whichever one it is you want to align with. You'll have opportunities to volunteer to review other proposals, which is also a really good experience for you as you're getting into the whole notion of being a scholar in a graduate program. It's also really important to note that you cannot submit a proposal, the same proposal, to more than one association or SIG. So if you choose to submit it to Women in Education, you can't submit the same proposal to another organization. You can present a different proposal for sure, but you can't present the same one to a whole bunch of different places. So that's just standard scholarly understanding of how you present your work in one place at a time. So I just thought I would show you the cost, and then Sarah has a question. So it's not prohibitive. So you would need to pay $50 plus almost $80 plus another $80 for registration. So, why do I have that? Oh, Congress registration and CSSE registration. So it does add up, especially if you're a student and you don't have a large income coming in. But there is a travel grant that would cover all of those costs that you can apply to. And so even though it's called a travel grant, it's intended for this conference. And this year it's virtual. So this is where it gives you a really good opportunity to submit a proposal, regardless of where you're located, regardless of your time frame, because the whole conference will be a virtual conference this year. Sarah, jump in.
I wanted to ask about like associations. You said that we cannot submit a paper for 2 different associations, but we can join as many as we want, right?
Exactly. Yes.
And the fee is for one single association, or the fee is for all of them? Like if I'm interested in 3 different associations, can I pay just one fee?
Generally. So if I go back to the fees, so plus the association fee. So most associations charge about $10 for each association. So if you wanted to join 2 more, you'd have to pay $10 a couple more times.
I see. Thank you.
Right. And so that is how each association generates its funds to offer, opportunities for graduate students as well. So it's important that you know this, so you're not surprised like I was when I started attending CSSE. Was you thought you'd paid the fee, and then they asked you for another one, and you really didn't know what it was you were paying for. So it's important that you understand the whole complexity right up front, so that you'd have to, it would cost you over $200 as a graduate student for this opportunity. But as I said, there is funding available for all of you to apply to. if you are presenting. Lisa,
Okay.
question?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes,
Is membership online? Like can
Yes.
you register online
yes,
on the CSSE website?
yes,
Okay, thank you.
absolutely. Yep. Yep, they're happy to take your money online for sure. So final notes, feel free to consult with your supervisor, your course instructor. If you've got other questions, you can send me an email and talk to each other as well. So you might want to do this collaboratively. Sometimes it's really fun to get together and present with 2 of you at the same time or 3. There's no prohibition from doing it in a collaborative kind of way. Don't be put off. This is something all of you are able to do. You're all capable of doing this, but make sure you read the submission guidelines so that you're including everything they ask for. And be proactive. Now I'm saying this sort of tongue in cheek because there's only a few weeks left until the deadline. Unfortunately, the deadline is really fast in the fall. But if you're really interested in doing this, start looking at this now and start framing up your proposal, because it's a really wonderful way to be a graduate student, to be not only connected to your institution and your program, but also to other graduate students across the country. Mostly they're Canadian scholars, but people from other countries around the world also join into our national organization. So I'm going to stop sharing and see if any of you have any questions or comments. Some of you have already done this before and have some suggestions or ideas for people. Like, I'm not going to pick on anybody particularly, but Han, I know you have presented before.
Yeah, thank you, Kathy, for introducing me. I got to attend CSSE twice, and as far as I understand, it's quite a complicated process when you register as a member, and you as well as fee for that. But as a graduate, as a graduate student, I registered for CSSG. I don't know.
The Graduate Student Association.
Yeah, right.
CCGSE.
Yeah, and I think it's very suitable for graduate students like us, because this association runs 2 kinds of presentations, roundtable and poster. And they are like informal discussions, so you can like you can grab up your work or what you're concerned about your work, and you can share with the participants there, and you can you can get advice from them. I think they're beneficial for us. And
Great.
and last year I remember I paid for the membership. It's about $155, and I attend many associations because it's virtual meetings, and yeah, and I applied for travel grant as well, but they cover only for membership, because the workshop, because the conference held online, so no fee for accommodation and travel. So they just cover us the membership, but I think it's good.
Thanks, Han.
Yeah, thanks.
Tamina, you have a question.
Yes, I was wondering, because sorry, I got connected a bit late, and about the proposal. as we are not PhD students, we have to write a proposal now, I mean, your first semester, or because we have to write 2 papers for 2 different courses we are attending this semester, and these 2 papers already takes a lot of time. I'm not sure whether do we have to work on a proposal as MED students?
If you want to present, you need to submit a proposal, but there's nothing to stop you from just attending the conference. So that might be something you want to think about doing in your first year, is just getting a sense of what other people are doing as well, and joining in the conversations. As Han was saying, there's lots of conversations, and you know, so she found a way to access many associations without paying the fees. So, you know, if you want more information about that, just ask her. So you can certainly be part of the conversations without presenting. The presenting of some of your work might seem a bit daunting in the first term of your program. But remember that, you know, you have to submit in October, but you're not presenting until May. The conference is in May 15th to 19th. So that gives you a lot of time. You just have to project. If you're planning on writing a paper this term and think you'd like to present it, you can just project into what it is you will be presenting once you've done the work.
Thank you. Got it.
One more question.
Yes, please jump right in.
So where, you know, it's I'm looking at the length of the proposal, and I'm trying to, you know, I'm considering presenting my thesis research, and I'm thinking, how do you collapse something which is as large as a thesis, because I'm close to completion, and how do you bring it down to 3 pages is my concern.
Answer the questions. So, you know, what is the purpose? So,
Okay.
you know, you could answer that in 2 or 3 sentences.
Okay.
So, you know, so you just will have to compress it. And it's really good practice because this is part of the game of being a scholar and an academic, is being able to write 4 different formats in different ways. You don't always have the luxury of, you know, 100 pages for your writing. Sometimes you have to compress it down. So it is good practice, and that you bring up a good point as well, in that the presentation time is a lot less than you would like to have. So often you get 15 or 20 minutes to present all this wonderful work that you have spent the last year or 6 months on. And that's the reality. And it's the reality for all of us. Nobody gets preferential treatment. So you have to also think about, how am I going to present all of my wonderful work in a 15-minute time frame? And so that's really good practice for you as well. As you are becoming a scholar, that's just the format in a lot of ways.
Thank you.
Sorry, I'm going to butcher your name. Mabubi?
Yeah, Mahbube.
Mabube, sorry.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. My question is this. The deadline, we are reaching the deadline, it's October 1st. And do we have supervisor for our proposal to ask for help? And the other thing, if we are going to submit our proposal, should we pay the tuition to get the membership of these conferences?
Yes, I'll answer the second one first. If you are planning on submitting a proposal, you have to become a member of CSSE. So you have to make a commitment now. As you can imagine, people behind the scenes have to put together the program. And so they need to know that you're committed to doing this and not just sort of flirting with the idea. As far as a supervisor goes, are you in the MEd cohort? So you don't have a specific supervisor. So you can always send it to me, or you can ask your instructor to take a look at it and say you're interested in doing this kind of work. You've got a couple of instructors, and both of them are very knowledgeable scholars. So you can also think about asking them. But at last resort, you can always send it to me and, you know, we'll talk about it. Lindsay.
Hi, I was wondering about the posters and like, because in a traditional conference, the posters are in a room and they're hanging up. So how are they displayed or discussed? Are they, do people use PowerPoint or what does that look like?
Yes, different formats of online posters that get presented. And the nice thing about the graduate student poster sessions is that there's no other sessions being held at that time. So everybody attending the conference will be drawn to these particular sessions, which means you have a nice audience of people from diverse backgrounds to have a conversation with. But it will be an electronic poster, obviously, this year. I mean, I guess you could create one by hand if you're an artist and take a picture of it. But it will be in a virtual kind of space.
And there's opportunity to speak to it, to the people who are viewing it?
Yeah, definitely, yes.
And Kathy, is the proposal pretty much the same regardless of what format you're presenting in?
Yes. Yeah, they're basically the same
question.
The same kinds of questions, yeah. So I'm just looking around the room and I know that Carrie has presented before, so not putting you on the spot, Carrie, but is there anything you'd like to say about your experience?
It felt like a lot to do to put together a proposal at this time of year with everything going on, but I was so glad that I did, because Kathy's right that there's so much you're going to experience over the next months, which I think will make your presentation really meaningful to you. And I found it really helped focus my thinking and my research as well. Like there was a benefit for me too. And you also get to interact with a lot of people, even in a virtual format, who are going through what you're going through. And I think there can be a real joy in finding other people and hearing about their passions as well. And it really gave me more inspiration for the journey, I would say. It was a very positive experience. Yeah.
Thanks, Gary. You will also find a lot of scholars whose work you might be reading, who actually attend the conference and do their own presentations. So it would give you another opportunity to engage with different people's ideas from across the country. Tamina, your hand is still up. Do you have another question? Or are you good? Okay, I just didn't want to ignore you. So I'm talking today about the Canadian conference, which is, as I said before, the largest conference across Canada for attracting scholars and graduate students. But I don't want to leave you with the idea that this is the only conference. There are lots of conferences being offered at different times of year across the country. So I really encourage you, to get involved in this one, because this is our national conference, but also to look for other opportunities to engage with people from across the country or from your different areas of interest and expertise, and start to join these different kinds of conversations. It's really wonderful to be able to share your expertise and also learn from others. So if you look around this space right here, you see a lot of amazing people who have all kinds of experiences that you can learn from, as much as from your classes and from your instructors. You will learn from each other. And so a conference is a space for you to be able to learn from others, regardless of their role. So just because you're a graduate student doesn't mean you don't have a really strong, vibrant career in all kinds of things. You've been educators, you've been managers, you've been researchers on your own, you've been doing all kinds of things. So don't discount that either as you are moving forward in these conversations. You have a great deal to offer the general conversation of education. And so one of the things I want you to take away from this is recognizing that CSSE is trying to respond to all the diverse needs of educational researchers and scholars across the country. You can see that people do research in many different ways from many different sites. So there is a space for you. And some of the new organizations, when they saw there isn't a space for me here, we created one. Right, so the Women and Education group started in the mid-90s because there wasn't a space for women's voices. The same with CUSEC. There wasn't a space for talking about issues of queerness and so that was created. The Indigenous education, it was recently created because it was recognized that there wasn't a space. And so trying more and more to be representative of all of the interests and all of the interest groups that make up this really rich array of educational scholars and researchers across the country. And I know some of you aren't in Canada right now, but you belong to our program, and so therefore you belong to Canada in some way. And we're certainly hoping that you will be able to make it here. And when you do, you'll already know a lot about Canadian research and about each other because you have seen faces repeatedly. So we'll continue to do this work. I'm going to stop recording right now.